Security Secretary Michael Chertoff and the Commerce Secretary Carlos Gutierrez. Gentlemen, thanks very much for coming in. Secretary Chertoff, let me start with you. What do you say to those people? A lot of critics, especially Republicans, a lot of conservatives say you may deny this as amnesty, but in effect you are granting amnesty to millions of people who snuck into the United States.
You know, well, first, I understand there are some people who expect anything other than capital punishment as an amnesty. The reality is the proposal here requires people who came in illegally, who want to stay, to pay a penalty, like a fine. That's a punishment. That's not an amnesty. It requires them to register. It gives us background checks. It requires them to work. It requires them to pay taxes. There is a punishment, there is an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and then there's a probationary period under which they have to continue to do the right thing. Now, some people may want a harsher punishment, but the reality is right now we have 12 million people who aren't going to be deported. They aren't going anywhere, and it's whistling in the dark to say that there's some other solution than one which acknowledges wrongdoing and tightens up the system and corrects it for good, which is what this bill would do.
Secretary Gutierrez, so what do you say to those other critics who say you're rewarding illegal activity?
Well, what we're doing is putting an order to a very dysfunctional system. We have a system in place that is just, it's broken, it's not working for anyone, and what we're doing is putting some order to it. What we need is an orderly, legal immigration system. We need an employee verification system. We need secure borders. That's what we need for our national security, and that's what we need for our economy. And this goes a long way towards doing that.
Duncan Hunter, the Republican congressman, Secretary Chertoff, the other night in that Republican presidential debate, he had some strong words because he's very concerned about what this could result in terms of homeland security. Listen to what he said.
As long as you've got a revolving door and you have no border, and this 2,000-mile porous border, incidentally, is our biggest homeland security problem.
All right, what do you say to Congressman Hunter?
Here's what I say. Right now, I've got my Border Patrol agents and my immigration agents chasing maids and landscapers. I want them to focus on drug dealers and terrorists. It seems to me if I can get the maids and the landscapers into a regulated system and focus my law enforcement on the terrorists and the drug dealers, that's how I get a safe border.
Secretary Gutierrez, let's talk a little bit about what these illegal immigrants have to do now to get on a path towards a legal residence status here in the United States and eventually citizenship. If they're honest, they're hardworking, they pay the fines, they do what you want them to do, how long will it take for them to become A, legal residents of the United States, B, to get a green card, and C, eventually to become citizens?
Well, first of all, the important thing is that there is no automatic path to citizenship. What we are offering them is a legal status, an ability to stay and work if, as you say, they meet certain requirements.
And they get a Z, it's a new Z visa that they would get almost right away, is that right?
We're calling it a Z visa, and it will take some time to put it in place. In fact, part of the bill, part of the compromise, is that we first have to have some border security triggers before we actually put this Z visa.
How long will that take?
Well, it depends. And Secretary Chertoff will be able to add to that. We're assuming around 18 months, but we've got to get it done.
So what happens, let me interrupt for a second. Secretary Chertoff, maybe you want to weigh in as well. What happens between now and that 18 month to these 12 million or so illegal immigrants?
Well, here's what happened. Assuming Congress passes the bill, it becomes law, we will begin the process of enrolling these people as we are moving toward the triggers. And when we enroll them, we're going to do a background check. If people turn out to be criminals, they're going to be ejected from the country. If they turn out to be gangbangers, they're going to be ejected from the country. Once we have them in a probationary status, we complete the background check. Then, once the triggers are met, they will transform themselves into a Z visa, which is a 4-year visa, renewable if they have to pay the fine, they have to play by the rules, they have to pay their taxes. So we're gonna bring them into the system slowly, get them visible, get them regulated, and then if they play by the rules, they can stay.
One final question, Secretary Gutierrez, for you. The criticism from the right we're familiar with, but what about the criticism from the left that this is simply too harsh and you're going to be breaking up families here in the United States because you're going to be giving priority status to education and other aspects as opposed to those who have blood relatives here in the United States?
Well, Wolf, that's the thing about a compromise, is that everyone gets something, but no one will get everything. And we believe that the shift toward a merit system, a shift toward national needs is important. We need to ensure that we're bringing in the job skills that our economy needs to be able to grow in the future. We're not discarding family, but what we are saying is that we need to look primarily at those job skills in addition to family. But what you have here is it's a compromise. And in order to get a bipartisan bill, which is what we're going to do in the Senate, we need to have a compromise. We need to just know that no one will get everything. But the way to move forward as a country and make progress is to have a compromise, to have a bipartisan solution, and to put the country first.
Secretary Gutierrez, Secretary Chertoff, thanks to both of you for coming in.
Thank you, Wolf.
Good to be here.